What does business culture mean to you within Benny Keith and then maybe just within the industry?
It's not just a plaque on the wall. It's something that is, very authentic, and then you can tell when it's authentic. Your company's culture aren't words on your website. It's how employees feel on a Sunday night.
This industry will spit you out because there's so many changes that take place.
Culture comes out in those times. And, we've had some other challenges. We had to overcome some obstacles, and I know it made our team stronger. All the employees in distribution, food service distribution, you take all the employees in the restaurant operators, and then you take all the manufacturers, the farmers, the growers, all of those, and put them together. We're the second largest industry next to healthcare in this country.
Welcome to Crave, the IFDA podcast. My name is Julian LeBlanc, your host for this series of great conversations with industry and non-industry leaders. The food industry is evolving rapidly, and so are its leadership challenges. Our mission with IFDA podcasts is to help you stay ahead of the curve with fresh leadership insights and strategies. Before we get to today's guests, I'd like to recognize Cut and Dry, our sponsor for Crave. Cut and Dry is the nation's leading e-commerce platform, offering the seamless ability for distributors and their partner manufacturers to promote and sell more cases with our best-in-class operator user experience. I am so thrilled today to be here with Mr. Mike Sweet, the current president of the food division for Benny Keith Companies. He serves on the board of Benny Keith Companies as well. And Mike, no pressure, but 120 plus years of success, right? There's a lot to live up to. And you're the current chairman of IFDA. So we'll get back to that in a second. And what I think you're going to see to our listeners as you listen to this great conversation is Mike has worn multiple hats over his career. So as much as he serves as the fearless leader today, I will challenge Mike to share some stories of him going through the organization and the various roles that he's played. And also, you can find Mike heavily involved in all kinds of community endeavors, whether it's board of directors of the Cotton Bowl Athletic Association, board of directors of Applied Science at the University of Mississippi. And I love, Mike, that you spent a lot of time with YPO, because I'm sure we can weave in some stories there. So with that said, Mike, that's a lot to live up to, and we're going to have a great conversation here today.
Yeah, Julian, thanks for having me. Yeah, I was wondering who that was that you were just explaining, but it's great to be here. Julian, this will be an easy conversation. Been pleasure getting to know you over the years, and looking forward to today. So thank you.
The challenge will be to keep this within the hour mark, because I think, Mike, we could probably riff. We're both very passionate about leadership and the industry. And maybe that's a good jump off point. Obviously, you're the current chair of IFDA. So why do you choose? I mean, it's a choice that you choose to spend time. And I know you're very passionate about your community, but I'd love to hear your thoughts around IFDA and what it means for all of us.
Since the day one at Benny Keith, I was, learned very quickly that we are very active in our industry, and IFDA is our advocate for our industry. And we're very passionate about being very active within IFDA. And I will first start by saying Mark Allen and his staff, there's no one better to represent us in the industry. And I really love being a part of it in whether it's on different committees or being the chair now, because of the people that make up this industry, the distributors across the country that represent IFDA. Some are competitors, but regardless, we're all friends, and we all share the same challenges. We all go through the same peaks and valleys, and to have an organization like IFDA to represent us, to be an advocate for us in this country is great, whether it's on Capitol Hill or whether it's dealing with labor issues, you name it. It's a great organization, and we've got a great history of making a difference, of IFDA making a difference in our industry. And I look forward to and honored to carry that on and be a part of it.
And, Mark said, look, Juliet, you and Mike have a great opportunity to help us maybe understand a bit around what does business culture look like in the food business in 2025, and where is it all going to go? So maybe let's start. I know you're passionate about culture. What does business culture mean to you within Benny Keith, and then maybe just within the industry?
I think in an industry like ours, it's essential. It's everything. It's the heartbeat of an organization. And at Benny Keith, it starts at the top with the Hallam's, our owners. They're our North Star as it relates in many ways, but certainly as it relates to culture. They certainly have set the tone over the years and continue to foster a great place for men and women to come and work, to grow, to develop, to explore and their talents and to make a contribution into this company of ours. But it's very important in culture. You got to be authentic. It's not just a plaque on the wall. It's something that is, very authentic, and then you can tell when it's authentic. But I will say, a company's culture isn't just one and done. You must continue. It's like growing up. It's like a plant. You must continue to foster it and grow it every day. And it's a commitment. It's a commitment, not only regardless of your title, whether you're in my chair or you're a driver or you're someone in sales or buyer. Everyone plays a role in that in that culture.
Well, listen, two observations, Mike. Every time I'm part of conferences, whether it's IFDA or other industry functions, I can always tell where the Benny Keith folks are. Whatever you're doing there, you talk about growth mindset, you talk about being all in, you talk about bringing it. There is something special in your sauce there. And, as I follow you on LinkedIn, I've noticed that you've in the past shared about Aspire, for instance, where it even starts with your interns. So it sounds like Benny Keith doesn't, leave this to chance, that you literally start the culture building very earlier on, whether people stay with you or whether it's an internship. So maybe just riff off that a little bit, Mike.
Yeah, well, thank you. I mean, we're very proud of our culture. We're not perfect, but we try to keep that at the center of everything we do. And when someone enters this organization, whether it's an Aspire, our intern program, which we just started this week, we talk to them about the very beginning of what it's like to work here and what culture means to us. At the same time, when other people join our organizations that have come from other industries or even other companies, it's upon all of us to be a disciple of this culture, our company's culture. Other companies have very similar, but we call them disciples, regardless of what's on your business card, to show them in many ways of what our culture means. And, whether it's being transparent, whether it's being showing communication, having good communication, living by the golden rule, treating people how you want to be treated, how you treat customers, how you treat vendors. You have leverage with one, you don't have leverage with the others. I think it's important to treat them the same. I read something the other day. I don't know if we've ever talked about this, but I read this where it says your company's culture aren't words on your website. It's how employees feel on a Sunday night, But if you can go to bed on a Sunday night and looking forward to going to work on a Monday, I think that's a good goal for a company to achieve. And like I said, we're in the heart. This is a tough industry, and we're not perfect. There's stuff. We all have tough days. But if you can go to work with men and women that you respect and vice versa, and you have a mission in an industry that is challenging, I think you're doing something good there. And that's something we strive to do each and every day.
Well, someone told me the other day, and I love how they framed it up. It said, Julian, the goal in life should be to try to find work that you can connect to, that you feel has meaning or purpose, and to do it with people that you enjoy doing it with. And I think some people can find maybe either or, but to find both I think that's the goal, isn't it?
That absolutely. I mean, it's, there's going to be tough days. There's going to be rewarding days. And it's great to celebrate the victories, but it's also even more important when, culture comes out in challenging times, whether it's individually for your own challenges or your a collective company. Those kind of things help,
You're right. We can all be good when times are good, but how are we going to respond when we face, March 2020, for instance? And I'm sure there's multiple stories there. So why don't we go to storytelling a bit? I'm sure, no doubt, Mike, know your passion for storytelling, that you've got a couple of stories that maybe you could share around examples of when your culture was great and maybe examples where there were some learnings.
That explains some of the gray there in my hair. Yeah, there's a lot, of course, COVID, I can think of a number of stories of, I'll just say personally, leadership, regardless of what level it is, there's a level of loneliness in leadership, in COVID, we, what got me through, what kept me positive, what kept that fire lit for me is I would get texts and emails, encouraging emails from fellow employees, like, really appreciate what the company's doing here. I know we're, going to get through this, and those things make a difference. And, at the same time, being in a leadership position, it was upon me and others to encourage others, saying, look, we're going to get through this. Personally, our company is going in its 119th year of business. And some say we've been around longer than some religions, and we've seen through, different challenges through our company's history, just like other companies within IFDA. And, we have a track record of getting through that. And so, that was something I wanted to remain positive and also to be very transparent. We started doing, videos and that sort of thing to tell people what's going on and what we're trying to do. But, I can think personally of a, conversation I would have with one of our general managers on my way home and getting his input on what's going through, but also helping him through some tough times. I mean, some uncertainty. So there's all those kind of stories, talking to customers, customers, as are our true partners, and certainly know a lot of them, and talking to them about conversations that they've had to do in laying off employees or having trouble to make payroll, and working with them to help them, succeed is something that, is very important as a partnership. But yeah, culture comes out in those times. And, we've had some other challenges where, we had to overcome some obstacles, and I think it made our team stronger. And anytime you can get through those things, it makes the opportunities where you are successful that more rewarding.
Locker rooms are typically made during hard times, not during winning streaks. And one of the things that I know as I followed your journey, Mike, and your team's journey is Benny Keith's always growing and acquiring, and there's been some mergers. What about when you merge two business cultures and the trust hasn't been built yet?
Absolutely. And, first of all, I loved being on a team, growing up in team sports and being part of a group. We weren't always successful, but I loved those bus rides and going through challenges and, all of that. And you bet, we've been fortunate to do a few, by definition, acquisitions, over the last few years. And really the first one we did in a long time was one about roughly 8 or 9 years ago in South Alabama. It was a Kelly Foods company that we acquired, and leading up to the closing date, we were feeling really good about how this was coming together. But at the same time, to your point, we're merging two different companies, potentially two different cultures. Certainly, we had a good idea that we shared the same beliefs and core values, but you never know, right? And 2 days before the actual announcement date, we set up a meeting with the leaderships in a very, confidential, quiet manner. And we were certainly very excited, but also very apprehensive. Like they were going to say, who's this company coming in and what are they going to, they're going to change. They're from Texas and everything. And so we walk in and, I try to think I'm pretty good at reading a room, and I'm looking around and it was a table and they were all on the other side and we're on our side walking in, and the owner of that company at the time had just told them about what's going on. And then we're about to walk in, and I read the room kind of going from left to right, and I saw, some good body language. And then all of a sudden I saw this one individual, and I mean, arms crossed, kind of furrowed brow. He didn't, I could say, this is someone we need to find out how we can, get him on our side, so to speak. And he was very quiet. And afterwards I went up to him and I said, I know you don't know me from Adam. But I can tell you've got some concerns here. I can just read your body language, and I want to try to, answer any questions or, anything I can do. And he was very quiet and he didn't say much. And he just said, I know how these things go, and they're normally not that good. And I said, well, I totally respect that. Let me just tell you that we are not calling this a acquisition. We're calling this a merging of two families. And we don't have all the answers. Y'all may not have all the answers, but I feel very, very good that we're going to get this together. But regardless of all that, I said, just allow us to prove ourselves and let us see if we do what we're going to say we're going to do. And he kind of nodded. And so, from then point on, even after the acquisition, that was kind of someone I always wanted. He was a good litmus test. He was very influential within that organization, and kind of a senior statesman there, and was head of the maintenance, head of the building, facilities manager. And so it'd been about 6 or 8 months after the acquisition, and I slowly kept in touch with him and through other people, how's he doing? And he's like starting to see some things. Some things were improving. We're making some investments that would allow him and his team to do his responsibilities a lot more efficient. And we had a company picnic on purpose a little bit since the acquisition, about 8 months. And I walked up to him, and it gives me goosebumps to this day. I just said, did we live up to what we said? Or no, I'm sorry. He came up to me and he said, I want you to meet my family. He goes, I want you to know your company lived up to what they said they're going to do. And that was so rewarding, not just for me. It's not about me, but it's about the whole company, and that we were able to do that. Now, we made some mistakes. Don't get me wrong. We made our share, but that kind of sentiment from someone that was very influential on that side of the table, so to speak, was very important to me. And I'll tell you another story, and I'll try to make it quick. But in that same acquisition, a good 2 or 3 months after we acquired them, we sent several people from our different warehouses to come there and show them accounting and purchasing and how we do our systems and train them, so to speak. And they were there for a week or so. And that team, obviously got to know the new team and so forth. And so kind of as a thing that they left them with, they all put their hands on top of the Xerox machine and copied their hands. And they said, welcome to the Benny Keith family. Let us know if you ever need a hand. And this was the picture that sits on my desk that they did. So
my God, Mike,
to me, that's culture. I mean, again, that's not me. That's our team doing that on their own. And, those kind of things, on that Sunday night, you're like, I'm ready to go to work on Monday because of stuff like that.
Okay, so you do know I'm French Canadian. I think you're trying to get me to cry here on a podcast. No, but those are two unbelievable stories because, well, the second one, obviously, you're part of the team, but to your point, this is a moment in time that happened. It was almost like merging of cultures, very symbolic. And I love that you have the artifact still in your office. And then one of the things you said that I wrote down as I was listening to you as well is this notion of when you were listening to this gentleman that struggled at first, or maybe had, whether it was perception or reality of, to your point, oh, here's a company from Texas, Benny Keith, they're going to come over and probably tell us how to do things. because you're the bigger player and so forth. You mentioned that you really were able to put yourself in his shoes. And I think great leaders are very strong with their decision or their conviction, and they leave with a soft heart. So it's kind of like be hard on the issue if you're negotiating, but be very soft in terms of human. How do you foster that empathy so that people do exactly what you did for that individual that shared concerns of being part of something unknown, I guess?
I would say one of the top things of the list is we've been very fortunate to have great leaders within our company. Again, I mentioned the Hallams, Robert Hallam, Howard Hallam, John Hallam, Robert Hallam Jr., James Hallam. I mean, all of them have been great leaders to model as well. But then we've also in the food division had people like Mike Roach, who I know you know, and Jim Lavender, Ron Boyd, and the like of learning from them, working for them, seeing how they handle a difficult conversation with a customer, or seeing how they work with an employee like myself who maybe made a mistake, and how they corrected them, and how they explained their experience and how they learned from that. That's one thing that I think we've been very fortunate to learn from leaders that have come before us. You know what? But also you can learn just as much from bad leaders,
yes,
or bad bosses.
Yes, you can.
What not to do. I've had some challenging coaches growing up. One in particular that I just couldn't didn't work well with. And my dad was like, you're going to learn more from that coach than you are a really good coach. But that goes through in business, having a leader, when I get, that maybe you're not agreeing with or don't jive with, and you're like, say to yourself, well, when I get in that role, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do this, and those kind of things. I think that really helps. But, as a leader, and I again, don't have it all figured out, but I think it's really important. I'm a big believer in ongoing learning and being an ongoing student of being a leader, of being a student of your industry, especially this industry that continues to change. I think that's so important to always be open to learning and open to new things on how you're going to approach something, certainly in business.
I can tell you that we're very fortunate to obviously work in this industry. And if you're not a continuous learner, and if you're not prepared to be agile, and if you're not prepared to be wrong from time to time, this industry will spit you out, because there's so many changes that take place, I'm sure, on a daily basis. I'm sure as you're walking through even some of your facilities, you're learning constantly. And it doesn't matter. To me, leaders with no titles, meaning when you're on a project, we're all leaders.
A title on your business card doesn't make you a leader. There's so many different leadership traits, within an organization. And me personally, when I go on a division visit, or I'm engaging at a banquet or another work event with fellow employees, I'm learning more than they're learning from me. I can guarantee you. Our corporate office sits next door to one of our warehouses, and from time to time I'll give a tour or show someone the building and what we do, even a customer sometimes. And there's several people that I know in that warehouse that I talk to a lot. We talk a lot about football, the Dallas Cowboys, and how they're not doing so good, but also they're telling me, like, what, our produce shipments are coming in so much better than they have. Or the opposite. Go to a sales meeting. Salespeople will certainly tell you what opportunities we need to improve on. And I take notes. Our leadership teams takes notes. I mean, you can learn so much more from that engagement than reading a report or, looking on your, data warehouse reporting system, on your computer. So getting perspectives from everyone within the organization, learning from perspectives from your customers, certainly. And then also our manufacturers, have a lot of data and insights that they can, share with us and on how to, what's trending, what's selling, how how we can help our customers in a very challenging business.
It's funny. Someone once told me, Julian, the day you think you're good, you're probably screwed as a leader. It's about respecting the fact that, hey, I might have been good yesterday, but no one cares what I did yesterday. What are you going to do today to inspire and lead your teams?
Yeah, I got a great example. Our top sales rep in the company is an amazing individual, and we have sales meetings periodically that they go to, and our vendors tell us what's going on. We have another number of learnings in this sales meeting day. But this individual who has been the top sales DSR for a number of years, he's normally on the front row, taking notes, talking to fellow DSRs, certainly sharing ideas, but he's always learning. As they say, success is rented, not owned, and rent's due every day. I mean, you can't, what made you successful yesterday might not make you successful today.
Well, look, I think it's funny. I was a guest on a podcast recently, and he asked me a good question. He said, hey, Julian, you work with a lot of salespeople, so let's replace salesperson with DSR in our case in the industry. Why is it that some people are great and some people are truly world-class? Like they separate themselves. And I said, look, attitude matters, skills matters, knowledge, experience. But I've yet to meet someone that has real gratitude. Hey, I'm fortunate to work at Benny Keith. I love my customers. I love my team. I love the challenge. That's not separating themselves.
It plays a big role. That's a good question though. I haven't really thought about it in that perspective, but gratitude is so important. We as leaders and the Hallam's and other people, they express gratitude, for job well done and milestones and achievements. I think that's something that most all companies do, but to be really grateful to work for a company, I think is a great sign of success, and I love that. But like I said, I haven't thought about it in that sense. I mean, that's a great aspirational goal to have that gratitude, and I would hope that our folks do.
Forget employee engagement. It should be like a gratitude score, Mike, because maybe something there.
Yeah, I like that.
Well, look, I think around, so as I kind of transition the conversation here, because we started around culture, and in order to have a good culture, obviously there's ingredients, and I think we've unpacked a few, but it also, leadership matters. So you've gone through the ranks, you've done various roles over the years. What mentorship, or is there a book, or is there, specific mentors or advice that was given to you along the way that you could share with the listeners here today, Mike?
I think there's a lot of sources that, leaders tap into. First, I kind of touched on it a little bit, mentors, officially or unofficially. I credit going back to my dad, one of my uncles that I worked for one summer in West Texas, Robert Hallam, those, Jim Lavender, Mike Roach, those folks, Ron Boyd, certainly, I learned a little bit and still are from each one of them, but also, learn from, like I said earlier, fellow employees, learn from customers, that sort of thing, but also am part of a business forum, where I meet with, other leaders in other industries, and we meet in a small setting and we talk about these kind of things. And by the way, Julian, I'm glad you mentioned that gratitude. I'm going to interject that in our next roundtable. I love books. I try to, whether I read them, it seems like I listen to them more than I read them now.
Like most, Mike, when I ask the question, most people pause and they're like, yeah, you know what? I listen to most of my books now.
Yeah, I've got a lot of time to spend on commutes or treadmills, so I do that. I'm about to dig into one that looks really good. It's called The 38 Letters from J.D. Rockefeller to His Son.
Wow.
And it's really interesting. And I barely opened the first page, but I'm looking forward to doing that. I read one recently called I Love Capitalism by Ken Langone. He kind of helped finance the Home Depot purchase and done some other things. Really, really interesting guy that talked about leadership in a lot of ways. I love podcasts. There's a lot of good podcasts out there. Crave being at the top of the list.
Good plug. I like that. That was good.
Yeah. Listening to my friends Rich and Suzanne and Mark, and have done a great job. But All In is one I listen to. There's one called Founders, which is really
Founders. Yes.
yeah, they have some great subjects and leaders on there. So, just trying to learn it all, or learn as much as I can to do the best I can.
So your son just graduated university last time we were chatting.
Yeah.
If you had to write him a love letter tomorrow, is there some advice that you would say, son, you're going to go into the wild here and it's going to eat you up and it's going to be magical and you're going to cry and laugh?
First I'd say, okay, I need my credit card back. Yeah.
Good.
No, I think, to be passionate and, to do something you're passionate about, to do something that is not just a job or a paycheck, something that you truly love to do and that you love the mission of that industry. I think that's the number one thing. I know, you got to be certainly conscious of paying your bills and rent and loans and those kind of things. But I think passion is so important. I think that's to me, a pathway to success, to a successful career is doing something that you're passionate about. And, and being willing to start at the bottom and being humble enough to learn, or aware that you need to learn, you need to start at the bottom in order to grow. And in order to be a leader, you've got to walk, as you said earlier, in someone's shoes and be in that position to show that empathy that you talked about and, to be able to, teach and that sort of thing. So, but number one is to do something you're passionate about.
I mean, we talked a little bit about passion that we have for sports. I know we both share that. And I always say, listen to someone talk about their favorite sports team, how passionate they are, and they're great storytellers. And then sometimes you listen to them in a business presentation and you're kind of looking at them saying, what happened to that person that was so fired up to talk about why the Dallas Cowboys lost in the first round again this year? Sorry, that was a Freudian slip, Mike.
Yeah, they didn't even make it to the playoffs.
Even worse, I was going to say. So it's funny, the buzz in Canada right now with the Toronto Maple Leafs that are a bit like the Dallas Cowboys. And we'll see, great talent, but just kind of can't put the business culture together.
Yeah.
So passion, is it something that you grow into or you find something right away you're passionate about? Because I would argue a lot of people might have started, let's say, in the food business. They weren't tremendously passionate about food distribution. And suddenly you talk to them 10 years later and they can't talk enough about the industry.
It depends, on the situation. I mean, if you take someone that's just passionate about the piano or something and, they're going to, or golf or whatever it is, they're going to be, so passionate about being and driving to be successful. Take someone like Tiger Woods or, Mozart or Amadeus or, on a piano, whoever it is. I think in that situation, that's someone they knew what they wanted to do from the start. And they probably had some skill or talent that they were blessed with. But, yeah, you're right. I think you could get into an industry that you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know about this. But then as you grow into it, whether it's an organization or you become more confident and more knowledgeable about the deal, that could breed more passion, to something that you're doing.
Because Mike, sorry to interject. If you think of, let's just use a DSR because we use that salesperson as an example. Some people grew up as operators, some people were chefs, some people worked, and then it was a natural transitions. But others, if you look at what they studied at school or did, was not food, and then suddenly here they are 10 years later and they absolutely love it. Yet that was not the predestined maybe career for them at a younger age.
Yeah, that's true. And like in sales, a sale, getting a new account breeds confidence and makes your day easier. You're seeing numbers on the board. You're actually contributing to help someone in their business, and that could lead to passion and then builds confidence. And, next thing you know, you're opening more accounts and that sort of thing. Certainly, I think that can breed it, certainly, but the the opposite can happen too. I mean, it can be tough. We have people in this company that started in sales and that wasn't for them, and now they're really good at in purchasing or marketing or finance or operations. So that is a chicken the egg. You know, it could go either way.
We're not native in terms of growing up with technology. We've had to lean into technology. Let's talk about technology in the food business and how that plays into your business culture. And just, I'm going to kind of keep it very open-ended, but technology and communication and how we interact with customers, and how does that play into what you do day to day there, Mike?
Yeah. Well, first, I think it's essential, regardless of what industry you're in, that you're always got your eyes on technology and innovating and evolving. And my predecessor used to say, high tech, high touch.
Ooh, that's good.
Meaning, we believe in technology, that it can make us more efficient and better. But at the same time, we have to have a high touch approach to our customers and how we deal with them. But yeah, it's ongoing. I mean, AI is certainly on everyone's radar, and how you use it and use it the right way where it can make a difference. Some people say, I've read where AI is the next cotton gin or the internet, and it's going to be so transformational. And then recently, the other day, I read where it's going to be, threat to, humanity or whatever. So, but either way, I think you must embrace technology, to be efficient, to meet the expectations of your customers and exceed them for that matter. And the other areas that it can address needs for.
Look, I love that starting point of high tech, high touch. One of the things that I keep telling people is I think our human skills are going to be rewarded more than ever. So I think people that really figure out that kind of went to the Dale Carnegie School or the Covey, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And you have to lean into technology, because if you don't, you're going to make yourself irrelevant. So it's how do you marry both of them, I guess, would be the challenge. That's probably a whole podcast in itself, Mike, that I'm sure we can explore. So look, let's talk about the industry. So you kind of started with sharing your passion for IFDA and why IFDA matters. But what excites you about the future of the industry, and where do you see this all going? If we had a crystal ball kind of moment, Mike, and we came back in 3 years and looked at this recording, what do you think is going to happen?
First, I will say, love the industry. We're very proud to be in this industry. I know fellow IFDA members are very proud and have a long history of being in the industry. It's a very important industry. Mark Allen said a while back, if you take all the employees in distribution, food service distribution, you take all the employees in the restaurant operators, and then you take all the manufacturers, the farmers, the growers, all of those, and put them together, we're the second largest industry next to healthcare in this country. It's a very, very, I think, relevant industry in this country. It's where restaurants where I proposed to my wife. It's where I go to make celebrations. My son's graduation a couple of weeks ago, but it's also a great place to make a career in the food service distribution business, specifically as it relates to IFDA. So, the industry has had a lot of hits and challenges lately, whether it's going back to COVID or inflation or whatever's going to happen with tariffs and that sort of thing. And certainly our restaurant operators, our partners have had some challenges as well, but I feel the relevance of our industry will continue to thrive. The people in this industry are very passionate. As we talked about passion earlier, they're also very innovative, and very open to to evolve. If you look at restaurant menus, 30 years ago, even 10 years ago, and fusion and things just continue to, and our inventory mirrors that. Our manufacturers, what they produce now mirrors that creativity and that innovation. And it's a very popular, fun industry to be in. It's people that have a strong appreciation for hospitality, for service, And it's something, that we're real proud of at IFTA, and that is one thing. Our goal this next year is to make a concerted effort to promote this industry and do it for current day reasons, but also for the future, for the next food service distributors, the next DSRs, the next chefs, because we, consider ourselves one. I think it's really important. IFTA has done a great job of, as well as the NRA and IFMA on pushing that forward. And we're going to certainly focus on that, this year.
A lot of times, as we mentioned, you've just gone through it with your son graduating, but we have a lot of friends, and when I tell them what I do or what I've done, they don't even, they know that there's jobs in restaurants. They know there's manufacturers producing products, but I think there is a great story to tell there, Mike. And I love that it is going to be a focus, and how do we create these connections? What about in terms of partnership? How do you see partnerships evolving here in the future as we're all trying to make sense of technology and, things like inflation right now and whatever not the flavor of the month, but, the challenge at hand that we're facing? How do you see that evolving? Partnership?
Yeah, I think partnership is so important, to our customers, but also to our manufacturers, the people that we secure the product from, that we have a good partnership, just as much as we do with our customers, with our operators, and to help those operators in their business to be more than just box movers, to really help them and be an extension of their business. I think that's important.
Yeah, and look, I think again, partnerships are going to continue to evolve. They're going to continue to follow whatever the trends or the challenges of the year are in front of us. And I know that conferences, again, this will be my shameless plug on, for instance, the IFTA Smart Conference, where you get different types in a room. And for those couple of days, we're all in it to try to better serve the operator that ultimately serves the end user, which is all of us, right? That benefit from going to restaurants. So if I were to say, Mike, you can only have one word on a t-shirt here to describe who you strive to be, because obviously we have good days, we have bad days, but what's the word you might choose and why as a leader? So now this is you, Mike Sweet, not Benny Kidd, for a second.
Boy, put me on the hot seat here. It's easy to say, strategic or forward thinking or innovative, which are all really important and something I strive to do. But I think, you could say compassion, being compassionate for, empathetic, open-minded. I think, I think just being, that's a good one, boy. Can I have how big's the t-shirt? I could,
well, how about this? Okay. That's a great question. Since you asked, I'll give you a bonus. It could be wrapped around maybe in a fragment. So how about this? It starts here and it goes somewhere in the vat.
Well, I'll steal a line from our founder, Mr. Keith. He used to say, pioneering is eternal. And what that means to me, and we say that a lot, is pioneering is you enjoy your successes, you celebrate them, but you're always trying to get better, whether it's individually or collectively, whether that's going into new verticals, new markets, whatever, continuing to try to always get better. And I guess, that would be mine, or even just being a student, try to get better.
Well, I'll tell you, I love how authentic this was, because I caught you a little bit on the spot. So it's not like it was pre-planned. And that's fantastic. I guess that's why you love being a leader, obviously, with Benny Key, because the ethos obviously means something. And I do like that you did start with compassion, empathy, because Mike, I've from day one where we've had some interactions, I'd got to see you interact with your teams. I think that is just part of your DNA as well, is lead with compassion.
Yeah, certainly. And I just want, it's more of a statement. Just want to thank you for inviting me and doing this. I think this is really good for the industry. We've got great leaders in this industry. You've already had Rich and Suzanne on, and God, who else did I missed? but Mark, of course, but I know you'll have some great ones on, and just thank you for doing this because I think it'll really make a difference. I like what you said about the gratitude. I wrote that down and I really like that. I think that's important, especially in this day and age to strive to have that gratitude. And, there's some faith behind that, but also, I think it's very applicable in business.
In the spirit of gratitude, I'm going to thank you, listeners, for joining us. And I guess congrats to all of you as well, listeners, for investing time in your personal development. If you've enjoyed this conversation, please reshare the link, as together is better as an IFDA community. And thank you once again, Cut and Dry, for being a partner on this passion project. There it is, the word passion, Mike. And until next time, friends, and keep being great and go ghetto.
This episode is brought to you by Cut and Dry, the only independently verified digital ordering platform that combines e-commerce, payments, and sales tools to help food service distributors sell over 10% more cases within a year. Here's the truth. E-commerce isn't just about going digital. It's about getting discovered. That's why, since 2009, Cut and Dry has led the industry in transforming your inventory into online custom apps that are easy to search, explore, and for your customers to uncover new products. Join us today at cutanddry.com.